County Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you all out this evening to the Candidates Forum. We of course wish that we were able to have a forum for every single race that's happening in the county, but of course time is of the essence. So we're of course grateful that so many people have come out this evening, and we really do appreciate that. We also want to thank the JCs for allowing us to use that venue tonight as well. I think everybody will really have a good time tonight and hopefully walk away with a lot of good information on the two candidates that we hear this evening. I'm going to turn the event over to Craig Renner, who will be moderating and running the program this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody. On behalf of Chamber of Commerce and the Southern Maryland Association of Realtors, who have helped us in organizing and promoting tonight's event, thank you for coming out. Let me first, of course, introduce a couple of people who need no introduction. First of all, kind of to my left, Commissioner Vice President Ruben Collins. To my right, Delegate Peter Murphy. We have developed about 17 questions tonight on the topic of economic development. We wanted to make sure working with candidates that the issues of concern to the Chamber of Commerce, to the Realtors Association were going to be addressed in this campaign. So our members and voters at large help those candidates stand on issues of economic development and growth in Charles County going forward. Each candidate was given a series of questions that will ask tonight prior to tonight's event. The ground rules, each candidate will be provided 2 minutes for an opening statement by order of coin flip. Mr. Murphy, Delegate Murphy will go first, and Mr. Collins will go last. Mr. Collins will go last, and then Mr. Collins will make the first closing statement. For each question, the first candidate to respond to the question will have 2 minutes to respond. In rebuttal, the second candidate will have 1 minute, and we will go back and forth in terms of the questions as we go through the evening. So, with that, let's get started. As I said, the first opening statement goes to Delegate Murphy.
Thank you very much. Can you hear? Can you folks here in the back? Is this better? Is that folks in here in the back? Does that work better? Well, I'm sure you'll let me know if you're not hearing it, or you don't want to hear anything. So, anyway, thank you very much. I really appreciate the chamber and the realtors for putting this on. And the reason I do, and I think it's so important, is that you are going tonight to really have an opportunity to see two very distinctly different candidates. Two people that have really very different values, that have a very different style, a very different way of leadership, how to go forward with leadership, and also a vision for Charles County. And so it's an amazing opportunity for everybody to be here, to really be able to compare those different characteristics. I think you're also going to find that one of the main things you'll hear throughout on my part is that one of the main things about my campaign is to build community. It's what we must do. We've got to build community. We can't divide community. We can't divide the county. It's got to come together. It's got to be one Charles County. I think you're going to see that tonight. I hope that you're able to recognize some of that. I know that I can do that. I know that I can do that because you have to build relationships. That's number one. You have to know how to do that. You have to value people. You have to value the relationships. Number two, you have to build teams. Nothing will get done if we don't build teams and bring people together. And third, of course, are getting some results. So that's just an overview. I'm sure we'll get to touch on that throughout. I do want to thank the folks that are on my team, that share my vision for Charles County. The dedication, the time they put into this campaign is truly humbling to me, so I thank them. And I want to see a hand of all those that are running for some office. Put your hands up for some office. Look at the people around you. Thank them for doing this. When you see that many people running, you know there's something that needs to change in Charles County. And so I thank all of you for running and making that decision to run. We need you. The county needs you, and I look forward to working with all of you throughout the campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Devil.
The mics don't pick you up when you move away from them, so make sure you stay on mic or maybe hold the mic because the backup room is having a hard time hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Do I get to do that again? I wouldn't do that.
Commissioner Collins, your opening statement.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Reuben Collins. I'm the Vice President of the Board of County Commissioners. I am running, and I ask for your support as I run for the presidency of the Board of County Commissioners. What is incumbent in this run is a recognition that as a county and as a community, it is important for us to continue to make strides. And from my perspective, the most important element in what has been lacking as this county has continued to grow and prosper is the building of our commercial industrial tax base. From the very beginning, when I was first elected in 2006, I made that a priority. I recognized even during that period, which was a bustling period during the overall economy of Charles County, that we had to develop a solid commercial industrial tax base. How will I do that? My platform includes a 4-point economic development plan, which includes instituting research and development, business incubators as a formula to begin moving forward with our overall economic development plans. Secondly, I'd like to fully implement the Waldorf Urban Redevelopment Corridor Plan, which focuses on transit-oriented development planning. Thirdly, I believe it's extremely important for the county to continue to move forward with the Maryland Airport Sub-Area Plan. And finally, to find alternatives, options for our farmers. I will talk in detail about transportation and other areas of my platform as we proceed this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. The first question to Commissioner Collins, and you'll have 2 minutes to respond, Commissioner Collins. In a period of county budget deficits and with privately financed planned commercial development along Route 228 in St. Charles and White Plains and in Indian Head, why does it make sense for Charles County to invest in the Waldorf Urban Design Program? And if it does make sense, how do you plan to attract private investment to this project and protect the property rights of existing businesses?
As mentioned, when I laid out the 4-point economic development plan, the work plan, or the Waldorf Urban Redevelopment Corridor, is extremely important in terms of the overall future of our county. It follows the tides of most developments, operations throughout the nation right now by focusing on transit-oriented development. The actual plan itself follows in detail the alignment of the county's recent alignment for potential light rail in this community. What it brings is an opportunity for development that is not necessarily similar to the type of development we've seen in our community. It provides opportunities for our young people to live. It provides mixed-use development. It also provides an opportunity for a vibrant downtown Waldorf. It is essential to what I believe is the future potential of the county. And so as we proceed, and as I've done the last 2 capital budgets, I've ensured that all of the necessary funding is available so we can ensure that all of the capital resources are necessary in terms of infrastructure to make this possible.
Thank you, Commissioner. Delegate Murphy, 1 minute.
Thank you. I've seen many redevelopment plans. I see the most recent, which is Waldorf. I've seen Indian Head. I've seen Bryan's Road. I've seen Hughesville, and now the infamous Tech Park. I haven't seen much done in any of those. So my approach at present would be first to take a look at that and to move towards a one Charles County. To take that amount of money, that's a huge project, and I'm not underestimating the importance to the county. But to take what resources we have and pour them into one project at the expense of other parts of our community is not, I think, the direction we want to go. And the other thing, transit is important in that. We'll never get transit if we don't develop good relationships with our partners at the state and our friends in Prince George's County. Understand if that begins, it's going to begin in Prince George's County and work its way down to Charles. We're at the end of the line on that transit. We've got to make sure we have good relationships with our neighbors so that when it gets to the end of their county line, they're still supporting us, that we have to be able to finish that off. So while I certainly, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate.
Delegate Murphy. As president, what will you see as the obstacles to allowing businesses to establish, grow, and thrive in Charles County? And what policies will you propose and pursue to address those obstacles?
I think one of the things that you do when you come into this role is the very first thing you do is you meet with the stakeholders. Government doesn't come up with the answers to these things. You've got to reach out to the business community. We haven't had a good relationship from what I can tell from our Economic Development Department and our chamber. I think we need to work together with those two organizations and come up with what are the things that make it good about working in Charles County? What are the things that are getting in the way? What are the obstacles? Government can help in that regard, and we need to work with our businesses to do that. The question says, what do you propose and pursue to address those obstacles? Government shouldn't propose. The proposal should come from the business community. They should come from ground up. They're the ones that live and support this county and us every single day. Small businesses are the backbone of our county. That's where the ideas come from. They come from the ground up. Government is here to help them realize those goals. So the first thing not would be the first thing, but certainly one of the first things I would do would be to meet with that community, determine what's getting in the way. I will tell you, I hear people say they would rather pull a permit in Prince George's County, and I heard the other day, in DC, than they would in Charles County. Prince George's County has 700,000 people, DC has millions. There's no excuse that our small businesses are not given the same opportunities to do business in this county without those obstacles. So we need to look at that. We need to look at ways that we can help them not only grow, but to thrive here in this county. There's so much they bring, and government can do a lot to help them improve, and I certainly look at it from that perspective. That's how we do it. Thanks. Thank you.
Commissioner Cobb.
Where I disagree with Mr. Murphy is how he describes the role of government. I believe the government has an extremely important role. I think the government has the role of actually facilitating the overall process. Where I think our county, and from that degree, the entire state has been relatively not as competitive as Northern Virginia or Virginia in general in terms of business development. We need to create a competitive atmosphere for business development. We need leadership that will provide opportunities for businesses. What I've done the last several years and supported is a job creation tax credit for the county, as well as implementing an ombudsman office, which provides opportunities to address issues such as the permit process and the length of time that people may be seeking permits.
Thank you. Next question is to Commissioner Collins. Charles County residents consistently cite traffic and commuting as among their top concerns. Mass transit may help ease those problems in the long term, but what proposals and policies will you pursue to address those concerns more immediately?
Approximately 2004, the county embarked on a fairly ambitious local transportation plan. It was called the Enhanced Transportation Program. It was fully funded with local dollars. That plan is, for the most part, complete, but there are a couple of elements of it that I believe would have some impact on dealing with some of the gridlock that exists, particularly in the Waldorf area. First and foremost is the complete extension of Western Parkway. In addition to that, and going further, on the eastern side of Waldorf is an extension of Post Office Road. That was placed in the Enhanced Transportation Program towards the end of the actual program itself. In addition, I believe that the county should and must continue to look at some type of relief to deal with the horrible conditions on Billingsley Road. I believe it is necessary in the county and in the county's interest to provide some type of adequate east-west transportation within our development district, and I believe that that is an important infrastructure plan for our community.
Thank you, Commissioner. Delegate Murphy, 1 minute to respond.
Thank you. The question is, what can we do more immediately? I think we need to look and start with what we have. And one of the first things we need to look at is our commuter bus program. The commuter bus program, as you may or may not know, is under the authority, if you will, of our Tri-County Council. A couple of years ago, as we were having some problems with that, we went to improve that. We need to keep improving that. We have too many citizens that wait too long for buses. They get passed up by buses. They're riding on buses that are substandard. Some of them are dangerous and so forth. So we already have that in place. We need to make sure that that program improves and keeps providing and moving people along. We also need to work with Prince George's County. We can talk to them about how maybe they can synchronize some of the traffic lights and so forth, so we can move people up 301, up 210 and so forth, and to partner with Prince George's County and see if there are things that can be done more immediately. Certainly we can talk about widening roads and so forth. In the fiscal 2015-19 budget, recommendations of this of our county right now, Billingsley Road is one of the improvements that's on there. One of several things. Thank you.
Delegate Murphy, next question will be yours. In most ways, Charles County is an example of smart growth. Income and education levels are rising, and at least 2/3 of Charles County lives in the northern tier of Charles County, north of Billingsley Road. Over 25% live in St. Charles. Thousands of acres are preserved from development. How would you build on this record of success?
Well, I think one of the things I would do when I got in immediately is I would find out what our inventory is. I would like to know what's already approved and in the pipeline. Those are the buildings that are going to happen no matter what. I think we need to first do that assessment and find out what we're headed towards. I think we also need to look at, in certain areas, what do the residents want? When we start to look at development, we should be asking people, what kind of neighborhoods do you want? Most people are going to tell you, I think, that they want sidewalks, that they want more walkable communities. But I think we need to reach out to them and have us help us get to that point. And I'm not so sure that the policies that we've had in this county, which is the record of success equals more housing. When I look at what the record of success is, I define that as quality of life. That to me is a record of success. And certainly housing is part of that, but it's not all of it. And so as we move forward, we need to look much broader and just not build neighborhoods, but build communities. And we need to take those communities and we need to expand them throughout the county so that so that everybody in this county has an opportunity to live a life. And all the folks that are coming here, they're coming here for the very things that they didn't get somewhere else. Our schools, safety, neighborhoods. We need to expand on that. And so I would look at it from that perspective in terms of, I would move outside of just developing and just housing. There's so much more we can do to improve the life of people in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Commissioner Collins, 1 minute to respond.
The question was inquiring about whether policy that has been put in place by Charles County government, the Board of Commissioners through the years, has followed the general principles of smart growth. And I would suggest, based on sheer numbers, reports that have continually come from the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission has shown data which shows that in terms of actual growth and development, this county has consistently maintained a balance where over 75% of the growth has been maintained within our primary development district. Approximately 25% has been within the rural areas or more rural areas of the county. The question is asking whether or not we maintain that. I think we have, and I think in addition, in terms of future prospects for development, the county will maintain that. And I will close by saying, if you look at where schools have actually been constructed, it's been over 30 years since a school has been constructed in this county outside of the development district, which I think shows where our priorities are.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Collins. The economic growth on the western side is constrained in part by water resources, and residents are concerned about the long-term viability of their wells. As a matter of public policy, would you support the construction of public infrastructure to provide alternative sources of water to these homes and businesses?
I know the first year that I was in office, dealing with water supply on the western side of the county was a major issue of concern. During the last 7 years, the county has addressed that in many ways through water conservation measures, as well as programs and procedures, including the contract, implementing the contract with WSSC to provide more in terms of actual water. As part of the recent discussion on this FY15 capital budget, there was also a discussion on what was called the Cross-County Connected Water Line. It was actually a very interesting discussion because it discussed what that actually is. The purpose of it is to link the Waldorf-Bennsville water system together with the Bryant Road water system to create a redundancy in terms of overall water supply. So if we started to see water on the western side of the county reduced because of that line and that valuable infrastructure plan, we would be able to address those potential downturns in the overall water supply. And so I think in terms of infrastructure, yes, it's important that we continue to build a robust water system as we continue to proceed as a county.
Thank you, Commissioner. Delegate Murphy, 1 minute.
Sure. If you read the question, it says, would you construction of public infrastructure to provide alternative sources of water? What that means is WSSC. I absolutely am opposed to looking to WSSC as a way to provide water for that side of the county. We should first manage our own water resources and plan better and build better. But understand, WSSC is controlled by Montgomery and Prince George's County. I don't want those counties determining what our water will be, and I don't want them setting the prices for our constituents and our folks on the western side of the county for water. We can manage our water better. We should start here at home first. And if that ever comes to be, it should be the absolute last resource in terms of getting water here. So I don't support using that as the first way to get water on that side of the county. I don't want to be beholden to other two very large jurisdictions which have much greater needs than we do for water. And you can bet they're going to serve their constituents well before they're going to serve ours. And we have a responsibility in government to protect our constituents and our county. Thank you.
Delegate Murphy, close to becoming a regional airport, Maryland Airport is viewed by the Charles County Chamber as an economic engine for the county. What is your strategy for ensuring the long-term viability of this project and for working with the Maryland Airport to attract and grow business? 2 minutes, sir.
Well, at one point I thought there was a plan to support the airport, and that was the tech park. And that was one of the original proposals, that would be built to support the airport. Obviously, there's some changes that have been made, and that may or may not come to fruition. What I am concerned about, the amount of money that the county is now going to have to pay on a contract that is related to that, could well have been spent to support that airport. It could have been spent, perhaps, to help build the infrastructure of that airport, to make that a more appealing place for people to come. It certainly could have been, we could have looked at to see what could we have done and what can we do in supporting that airport to build up Indian Head and the base. They're very neglected, and they've been neglected for years. And so if we're going to look at putting money into that airport, I think we need to look broader than that. And what can we do to build that? Well, we could do that because the way we do that, I think, is to move out, look at what we can do to support the base, who would be the clients, who would be the people who would be using that airport, find out about that, and then build what we need to do or do what we can do to encourage them to come. But I think we missed a tremendous opportunity in not developing around there to support that airport. And at this point, it's hard to know exactly what direction we're going to be going. Thank you.
Well, it's really not difficult to know the direction because it's instituted in the Maryland Airport Sub-Area Plan, which is fairly comprehensive. And it also, that sub-area plan puts in perspective all of the things that were referenced by Mr. Murphy. It includes looking at the redevelopment of Indian Head. It also includes the tech park. But it also provides opportunity for commercial development within the Pamunkey Corridor. One idea which the commissioners accepted was a proposal by my part to look at the Pamunkey area as a historical district, to look at potential opportunities for tax incentives in that area, which traditionally has been considered an area where minority business development has occurred during the course of the county's history. So answering the question, the sub-area plan actually endorses many of the things suggested by Mr. Murphy.
Commissioner Collins, the next question. Charles County's property tax rate is among the highest in the state. How do you plan to expand the commercial tax base if the burden on residential property taxes is reduced?
Once again, I go back to the 4-point economic development plan. In 7.5 years in my position as representing District 3 on the Board of County Commissioners, it's become abundantly clear to me that as our county has prospered and moved forward, the biggest impediment to our future prosperity is the lack of a robust commercial tax base. We have to become more conscious of what that represents in terms of our overall economy and our ability to make decisions for the future. What's fascinating to me is much of the discussion that many of you have heard that has gone on during the course of our board relates to decisions. Where do we consider priorities to be in terms of the future of the county? And one of the things that has created that impediment and the difficulty for our county is the lack of any type of unified approach to how we can build the commercial side of our tax base. I believe the plan that was put in place that includes a very concise 4-point plan, which includes development in our primary development district, as well as looking at opportunities for alternative farming options to address our overall economy, is what will inevitably be the opportunity for us to no longer look at your individual taxes as well as property taxes to balance the budget. Until we are able to reach that point where we're consistent, where we are one county, if you will, that understands how important economic development is, we will continue to fall in this spiral of arguing over things that are minimizing our ability to move forward.
Delegate Murphy, 1 minute to respond.
Okay. It's a quick 1 minute for a very important question. Charles County has the highest property tax in the state, second lowest number of jobs per household in the state, more portable classrooms per child in the state. They have the longest average commute time in the state, and they have the fastest growth outside of areas qualifying for state assistance in the state. When you look at all of those things, it's not a wonder that people are looking to where to relocate. They would question whether this is the best county to do that. We can change that. We've got to change that. And we've got to change it because without a solid commercial base, your taxes are going to continue to go up. Because unrestricted sprawl costs us money. It costs us more money per household than it does the services that we provide are more than what we get in taxes. So until we get that in order, until we make this a county that people can look at, and until we partner with the state and repair the damage that's been done, we're not going to be able to attract the kind of businesses that we want to attract here. Thank you.
Delegate Murphy. A few years ago, CNN Money named Waldorf as one of the top 20 places to live in America. The award was a little promoted by Charles County, and in many quarters locally was greeted with derision instead of being a source of pride. Does Charles County have a self-image problem? And if so, how would you address it?
I think I just answered that, but I don't. The way you do that is you start to talk. You have to have people in government that love this county. You have to have people in government that promote this county. You have to have people in government that are proud of this county. We've never had a Pride Day in Charles County. We need something like that. We need to bring out businesses. We need to bring out the schools. We need to have people come and see all there is so much wonderful stuff going on in this county that people don't know about. You may know about it in your little group, but I promise you as I'm out campaigning and people come to me and tell me the things that are going on, this is such a rich county, and we need to promote that better. I'm sure in our day, if we put money, we can expand social media. What an effective way to get our message out to people, all different ages and interests. We can do that. We should do that. I think we don't rely enough on our school systems. We should be promoting everything that happens in our schools, so that when McDonough High School is having a play, it's not just McDonough High School students and parents that are attending, but everybody in the county knows about it. Everybody come and support those children and those kids. And if you do that, if you believe that, if you believe that we're one county and we can be one community, then that's where it starts. And that's how you start to build the pride. But you've got to start at the top. You've got to believe this is the best place to live. You've got to believe that we have potential. You've got to believe that we have promise. I do. And that's the main reason that I'm running, because I don't believe it's been given the due that it deserves. And so there's a lot to do here. There is so much to work with. We don't have to reinvent a lot. There's so much here already. We just need to celebrate it. We just need to expose it. And we need someone that goes to the state on a regular basis and says, look at us. Look at Charles County. Look what we're doing. They want to partner with us. We've got to welcome them, and we've got to rebuild those relationships to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Commissioner Collins, 1 minute, please.
I've said on many occasions that as a community, it's extremely important for us to recognize the many benefits that exist here in our community. What has made it difficult in Charles County is we've never necessarily had a central location that could act as that magnet to bring the community together. And so in many instances, you have clustered communities throughout the county operating and doing very good things. In terms of community, you can find no better place to raise a family. One of the reasons why I set forth, and I'm proud to say that the Board of County Commissioners approved the Waldorf Beautification Project, was just that, to recognize the significance of our community, to address what I believe is a lack of appreciation for an extremely beautiful community. And as the project continues to prosper, in conjunction with the Urban Redevelopment Corridor, we will continue to see benefits.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Collins, as Commissioner President, how will you work to ensure the autonomy of Charles County on purely local matters?
I can tell you what I've done during the last term. From the very beginning, when the idea of setting forth a youth detention center in Waldorf, when it was clear that citizens in Waldorf were absolutely against the idea, I went on record immediately to show that the actual intention of that was contrary to the overall needs of our community. Now, Mr. Murphy himself never went that far, recognizing the inconsistency in establishing a youth detention facility. As a result of my opposition, as well as virtually all of the elected officials in the county, the state eventually dropped that idea. And I think as citizens, they recognize how important it is. There was nothing that youth facility could bring to Waldorf, particularly because of its proximity to the Urban Redevelopment Corridor. And so that is a direct idea. In terms of our relationship with the state, we are like other jurisdictions in the state of Maryland. And I've never witnessed anything to suggest that somehow we have a bad relationship with the state of Maryland. I mean, that is simply not true.
Delegate Murphy.
When I read the question, it talks about autonomy of Charles County on purely local matters. I interpret that to have to do with land use, because we have this big issue with the state kind of talking to all the jurisdictions about how we should develop. I do believe that the final decisions in local matters belong at the local level. We know what's best for Charles County. But that doesn't mean that you work outside the law. We've got to work within the law, and we've got to work with our state government. You must maintain a strong relationship with the state, and the way you do that is you build relationships with your delegation. They're the folks that are up there. They're the ones that are going to watch out for us. They're the ones that we give the information to. They're the ones that are representing us. So we have many avenues. I can't tell you how much the state wants to work with its jurisdictions. It wants them to be successful, but you've got to work with them. And you've got to allow them to be able to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. The next question goes to Delegate Murphy. With 183 miles of tidal shoreline, Charles County can boast of several waterfront access parks such as the Nanjemoy NRMA, Smallwood State Park, Friendship Park, Mallows Bay, Chapel Point State Park, Mattingly Park, First State Park, and a number of marinas. With such wonderful water vistas, opportunities to bird watch, fish, kayak, and hunting for fossils abound. What is your plan to promote, build, and make both tourists and citizens aware of Charles County's waterfront resources?
I think one of the thing to recognize, and Craig just read it, we have amazing natural beauty in this county. It's unmatched in the state. It's just amazing what we have here. But we haven't really utilized it. I look at it a little differently. I think that one of the things we can do to promote it is that we need to work with our school system. We need to help them build their curriculum in any way we can to bring children outdoors. Not all classroom learning occurs in a building. There's much to learn outside. J.C. Parks has an amazing wetlands program. The governor came down and launched that statewide program in our county at that school. Let's let them be our citizen ambassadors. Because I promise you, when they go home and they talk about what they did that day, their parents are going to want to go. We pour a lot of money into tourism. We pour a lot of money into brochures and advertising. I say let it happen here. I say let people promote it ourselves. If people come to visit you in the county, you take them to these places. You become the ambassador. You show your pride in the county. There's so much we can do. And you know what else? When we expose our kids to the natural environment, it enriches them. It gives them an opportunity and experience they don't get in the classroom. And it's right here in their home county. And so when we talk about pride, and go back to that question, how do we build it? You start there. You start with our kids. The teachers I know want any opportunity they can to expand their curriculums, to enrich their children and give them opportunities. So, number one, recognize what we have, but let's build it from inside. Let's enjoy these things. They're beautiful places, and we can do it ourselves. And by the way, if we get our children invested and engaged, and let them be the ambassadors, let them, you know how it is. Recycling, where would it be today if we didn't have it in the schools? So those kids come home and tell you, you better put, where's that blue? Okay, excuse me.
What's amazing is I've seen our public school system make great strides in doing just that, in actually exposing our children to the nature and the environment. As someone that has 2 young children in Charles County Public Schools, I can tell you as part of the regular curriculum, they are exposed to that. And they probably more so than the adults in the community, our children are the ones that have the opportunity to visit many of those sites. Responding to the question directly, what needs to be done at this point as we move forward is actually completing the implementation of the overall 1999 study for selected areas for waterfront development. Included in that is development of Benedict, Aqualand, and Port Tobacco, which is actually proceeding at this time. The county's made great strides in terms of the completion of waterfront development in Benedict. And in terms of Aqualand, we've made that a priority. I certainly have in terms of this capital budget to move forward on.
Thank you, Commissioner. The next question to Commissioner Collins. What issues or concerns to the structure of county government do you want to see addressed in the proposed charter that residents will vote on in November?
I've recognized, just in terms of democratic principles, that the whole notion of separation of powers is something that is embedded in our Constitution as well as our democracy. What the proposed referendum creates our citizens the possibility of addressing is whether we as a community are willing to look at a structure of government that includes an executive branch, a legislative branch, as well as the judiciary. Up to this point, our county has operated primarily as a commissioner form of government. We are operating now as a code home rule form of government with commissioners. But the actual separation of powers does not exist. The commissioners act as essentially a hybrid of the executive and legislative branch. At the end of the day, I supported wholeheartedly the idea of putting this to referendum. It will inevitably be a decision made by the citizens whether or not moving to charter form of government is in the best interest of the future of our county. In terms of actual structural differences, the presentations that the Board of Commissioners received on the idea did not necessarily imply that there would be drastic changes in the structure of government. Much of that would go through the actual charter itself, but it doesn't require that there be significant changes to the overall structure of government.
Thank you, Commissioner. Delegate Murphy.
In 2002, I ran for county commissioner, and at that time, Code Home Rule was on the ballot. I opposed Code Home Rule then. And I will just tell you, no matter what form of government you structure, it's only as good as the elected officials that sit in those seats, no matter what it looks like. And that's up to you. That's up to you to determine who will govern you and who will govern this county. So the structure is less important than the people we put in office, no matter how it looks. My concern about this approach, at this point, when you look at the deficit, when you look at the amount of money that we're struggling with in this county, anything that would add another layer of bureaucracy, anything that would add more cost to this county, I think we need to go very slowly before we look at that. I really do. I don't think that solving the problems that we have is by growing government here and making it much more expensive for our citizens. I do believe, though, that there may be other ways to look at it. There may be hybrids. It may be, and I don't know. I can see that.
Delegate Murphy, next question. North Point High School is the most overcrowded high school in Charles County, yet many families from around Charles County seek to have their child enrolled in the science, technology, and industry programs that are offered at the school. In your analysis, what lessons should we take from these apparent contradictions?
One of the things I want you to know, there are amazing things happening in every school in this county. I know North Point gets a lot of attention. It's the newest school. It has all the bells and whistles, and it's a wonderful school. It does good things. But this year, next week, I'm going to be handing out scholarships for the last time. In the 8 years I've been there, I've given over $318,000 in scholarship money to our students. And every year, those kids pull in millions of dollars in scholarships. Good things are happening in our schools. We need to let people know that. We need to let them know that not everything may be going on in one school or another. We need them to know that within their own schools, there are good things and we can promote those. I don't know. I haven't studied it that closely. But maybe the thing to do is to look around and see what does each school offer that's unique, different. Where are they strong? Maybe students should be able to apply certain percentages to those schools, like they do in North Point. Maybe that's what we do in this county. So we grow our children based on what their skills and their gifts are. Maybe they don't get them in one school as much. Maybe it's somewhere else. We can be creative, we can do that. We can't keep building North Points and St. Charles schools. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But what about the folks that are left out? We can't leave any student left out. We can't leave one child left out. We can't let one family left out. We've got to promote these schools. We've got to know. And I want you to know. Everywhere I go, all the time that I was at Lackey recently, they had a cabaret night. It was put on. It was one to celebrate the arts. Those kids were terrific. They did a great job over there. How many know that? How many of you know that? How many of you know that that goes on? It goes on in every school every day in this county. And we do that because we have dedicated teachers, people that go every day. Thank you.
Commissioner Collins, 1 minute, please.
I think in the view of many in the community, there is a contradiction. When you look at North Point High School, when you look at the St. Charles High School that will soon be opened, when you talk to people directly administering our public school system, they will tell you that many of the programs and services that exist system-wide are available to all of our children. Just in terms of Lackey High School. Lackey High School has received significant recognition for its aeronautics and space program, its partnership with NASA. This is something that's going on throughout the school system, but what I will say, what's ironic when we look at North Point, as much as we hear discussions about overcrowding and how that limits the overall educational background of our students, there's a need in all of the, many of our citizens are seeking to have their children educated at North Point High School. And I think that's significant in terms of the actual programming. The issue is programming more than anything else.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Collins, would you support or oppose the creation of a county police department, and why?
In responding to this question that was presented by the FOP in this questionnaire, my response was essentially that, first off, I'm not running to be in support or to endorse moving to an actual police department. But what I can tell you in terms of doing some research and through my observation in looking at our sheriff's department in this operation, there exist potential opportunities to receive more federal dollars to actually employ actual men in uniform, men and women in uniform, more sworn officers through federal programs that exist that are not available to sheriff's departments. As many of you know, even if there was a change to a police department, if that was endorsed by the community, you would still have a sheriff's department. We would not, that is a statutory requirement of the state of Maryland. Every jurisdiction would continue to have an actual sheriff's department. Another thing that I think is of note and for us to consider is the fact that as a sheriff's department, Charles County has one of the largest sheriff departments in the entire state of Maryland, just in terms of the sheer number. Most jurisdictions that are the size of our law enforcement agency, primary law enforcement agency, are generally police departments. So that is just food for thought. But the county would have to literally receive enabling legislation from the state of Maryland in order to even consider the idea of putting the possibility of moving to a police department before the voters.
Thank you.
Very briefly, I'm very pleased to be endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police. Public safety is one of the main reasons people come to this county. They want to feel safe where they live. And we oftentimes underestimate and undervalue the work that they do every day. They put their lives on the line every day. When they leave their house in the morning, many don't know whether they'll come back that evening. You know, my son-in-law is a state trooper. We live with that. but they do it because they do it as service to us. So in terms of whether there's a change that needs to be made, what I would say is that if I was in office, I would look at that. And does it need to be fixed? If it needs to be fixed, do we do that internally? And if so, what are the costs to doing that? And what are the benefits to doing that? Commissioner Collins is right. You know, if you do that, you can have a sheriff's department and a police department. And that's another layer of bureaucracy. Can we stand that? What would the cost be to us? And does it benefit us? Does it make us more safe? And I think that's the bottom line. Thank you.
Delegate Murphy. Federal and state permitting authorities have expressed strong opposition to building the extension of Billingsley Road. Charles County has opted to keep money in its capital budget for construction of the connector. Should that money be zeroed out, or would you pursue the construction of the connector, and why?
It's my understanding that they did more than just strong opposition. I believe that they denied those permits. So I think that's and I may be wrong, but I believe also that the county commissioners voted not to appeal that decision. And so that being the case, when we had the opportunity to do it, and had the opportunity to, they didn't do it. And so I would zero out that $1 million because it's already other places to use that. Thank you.
Commissioner Collins, 1 minute.
Mr. Murphy has suggested that the two of us have vastly different views of where we are as a community. I view some type of east-west connector as being extremely important to the future overall infrastructure of this county. That's the bottom line. Now, whether or not the cross-county connector, as it has been articulated in the past, and the present iteration of that will be continued, remains to be seen. I know one thing that I've endorsed is the idea of exploring potential alternatives to the alignment that exists to address some of the concerns that was raised by the Army Corps. And I want to stress that there's a fundamental difference in whether or not moving forward and whether it was feasible included agreeing to not move forward with an administrative appeal. Simply put, administrative appeals are extremely difficult to win. And so that was really the decision made by the commissioners.
Thank you. Commissioner Collins, next question. Commissioner, many young Charles County residents recently graduated from high school or college don't see themselves remaining in our county and building their future here. What policies would you pursue to bring job creation and housing opportunities in Charles County that will appeal to younger residents?
Two things. First and foremost, and I didn't have an opportunity to talk about it, but providing more potential options in terms of education. I think that the College of Southern Maryland has done an outstanding job in terms of expanding opportunities for our young people. But one thing that has not been put in place, and one thing that separates our county from our neighboring jurisdictions, with the exception of Calvert, because even St. Mary's County, Prince George's County, have four-year colleges where you, as a student, you can actually receive a four-year degree in some area of study. I believe, and I actually am aware that some discussions have taken place in terms of exploring possibilities such as that locally. That alone has the potential in creating the type of synergy that exists in communities where you have university systems. Secondly, and I spoke about it earlier, was the full implementation of the Waldorf Urban Redevelopment Corridor. What it provides is the opportunity to create the type of vibrant downtown that's similar to Shirlington, Alexandria. Certainly, it provides those opportunities for some degree of a nightlife. Now, some people may not view a nightlife in Charles County as acceptable, but if we want to maintain our young people, if we want to maintain that intellectual capital from our young people, we have to start making decisions that recognize the potential to make our county more livable for our young people.
jobs and housing. If jobs were what kept people in their communities, we wouldn't have 60% of our people commuting outside of this county every day. So we've got to start sooner. We've got to have our young people feel that this is home, that this is their community, that they have an investment in it. And this may sound a little crazy, but I believe that one way to look at that is stop redistricting our children every year to year out of their history. When you give a child, and we know one of the indicators for people to graduate is that they belong to clubs or activities. When they start their freshman year and they have to leave in their sophomore or their junior year, they get disconnected from their community. Let them belong here. Let them build community. So that when they do go out of the county for college, or they do go for a job, they still want to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Murphy, with support from the county and the state, the College of Southern Maryland is committed to building a new campus in Hughesville. Please explain if you support this plan, and if so, why you believe this to be an example of smart growth.
I certainly do support the plan. I think it's a great idea putting a campus in Hughesville. And when you look at that particular area, it will help grow that area as well. That campus is also going to be ideally situated. In Charles, we've got St. Mary's, and we've got Calvert there. What we need to do is to make sure that the programs that that campus provides are unique to Calvert and St. Mary's. We need to bring those students here. The other part of that question is, did we think that that the cost should be borne by Charles County or by all 3 Southern Maryland counties? I would be very hesitant to ask the other counties to participate in funding, because when you do that, you lose some control over that. It is in our county. It's going to be serving primarily our students. And so I would say that would not be something maybe down the road, but I do believe that's something that initially, we've got the funding, it's going to be built, it's going to serve our community, but we can certainly attract students and students of all ages from the other jurisdictions into Charles County. How good is that? They come, they pay their money, their tuition, they spend money on books, they're help paying salaries of people that work in the county, they support that community as well. And then they go home. You know, there's no better way when you start to talk about how do you increase revenue, how do you bring people in. And so I certainly do encourage that, I support that. I would be a little bit hesitant jumping on right away to look at sharing the cost of that with the other counties.
Thank you, Delegate. Commissioner Collins.
The present Board of Commissioners overwhelmingly endorse the idea of the CSM plan for Hughesville. But in hindsight, and these were certainly issues that I raised during the course of this, and I think it's a question that we need to look at further, is the impact of this school on where our general population is, which is in Waldorf. And the irony for me, even with the plan itself, is it created what is essentially a new priority funding area, which by many people's account is an example of sprawl. Essentially what this project did was create that. You know, but the project in itself, I believe, has to be supported by the 3 jurisdictions that make up CSM. Because otherwise, where is the responsibility in terms of the cost when this is for the College of Southern Maryland? This is something that, and that was part of the argument set forth by the trustees, that in fact, this would be placed in a proximity where all 3 counties would benefit.
Thank you. Final question tonight, and we'll start with Commissioner Collins. Commissioner, the Chamber is a strong supporter of the Naval Surface Warfare Center in Indian Head. However, recent years have seen a decline in business climate in Indian Head, as services are pulled within the fences of the base. What is your plan to, 1, revitalize the town of Indian Head and the surrounding area, and 2, work and support the base?
Too often the discussion when we talk about the base, when we talk about the plight, is to somehow piecemeal approach what would be in the best interest of the western side of the county. So you have some that state that, well, you know, the base itself can stand alone and we just need to support it from that perspective. Others suggest that what we need to do is essentially redevelop Indian Head and somehow exclude from the equation the idea of the promise that exists through the Maryland Airport sub-area plan as well as the Tech Park. I believe all of these things work collectively towards what is necessary to build a robust commercial economy on the western side of the county. I think they all play hand in hand, and I think certainly with that robust economy that exists through the synergy that connects, you know, that overall airport sub-area plan to the redevelopment of Indian Head, including the development of partnerships with Prince George's County as a result of that. All of that will address what I believe has been the fundamental concern of all of our citizens. You know, building our commercial tax base, ensuring that we have options when we actually look at balancing our budget. And the only option is not to raise taxes, but in terms of looking at how we can develop and build our commercial economy, that is the key. I believe that we have to absolutely institute the development of the Maryland Airport sub-area plan.
Delegate.
The question has to do with the base in Indian Head. I can tell you that a number of years ago we went through the BRAC. The Navy base was on the hit list. It was only through Senator Sarbanes, Senator Mikulski, and Congressman Hoyer that it was saved. That was it. That's what saved it. One of the major issues around the determination of whether a base will close or not, one of the major ones is encroachment. So as we talk about all these grand schemes, the big plan in Indian Head and one in Bryansville, which by the way, there is no real connection, we need to keep that in mind. But in the meantime, just go to Indian Head and see how just really depressing it is, all boarded up. You know, we can do better than that. We can engage our kids, get them to do murals, get them to do things, do a farmer's market down there, do something to at least help those people have some pride. And I can tell you, nothing will beat people out more than if they see their kids' artwork up on a big 4x8 piece of painting. Anything we can do. So thank you.
Thank you. The final question, that's the final question by order of coin flip earlier. We now move to final statements, and the first statement goes to Commissioner Collins. Commissioner, you have 2 minutes.
We have choices, and the choices are very clear. I, from the very beginning, have committed myself to doing whatever is necessary to move this county forward as it relates to building our commercial industrial tax base. The only way we can move forward is by expressing and appreciating the significance of all of the resources that come to bear when we make decisions about our future. I believe, based on the experience that I've acquired the last 7.5 years, the fact that me alone is the only candidate that's actually acted in an executive decision-making level as it relates to balancing budgets. I think that is incumbent on us when we take advantage of this opportunity of how we move forward as a county. I'd like to address more than anything else why I believe I have done what's necessary to move our county forward. I think during the course of time, initiatives that I've set forth, including the first Summer Youth Employment Program, the Waldorf Beautification Project, focusing on making Waldorf a more walkable, livable community, my commitment to town hall meetings every single month since I've been in office, creating opportunities for business development with ideas such as the Pamunkey Historical District, which is aligned with the overall Maryland Airport Plan. These are ideas to move our county forward. I'm not coming to you as a community talking about what we can't do and what we shouldn't do. I believe we need to have leaders that are willing to try to do what is necessary to move our county forward. So please vote for me on June 24th. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Delegate Murphy, your 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you. There is a clear choice. You have a choice in whether or not you're going to elect someone who puts Charles County first or not. And that's as simple as that. The county has got to come first. There is a lack of trust in this county today. There's a lack of trust in government. There's a lack of trust between our county government and the state. And there's a lack of trust in our citizens. I can tell you this, that if elected, everybody is in. Nobody is left out. And there are no exceptions. Period. It has to be that way if we're going to build a community here. If we're going to go back to a place that we're proud of. Instead of going around and people calling us names over what's been going on, we can change that. You can change that. And I think that without that, if we don't make a commitment to change this county, to make it ours, then all you heard tonight was just talk. You heard about studies, and that's all you heard. But tonight, and it's so wonderful to see so many people out. I thank you so much for participating in your county and in your government. Never forget that it belongs to you. Never forget that the creativity, the energy, the innovation, the energy comes from the ground up. It doesn't come from government. And so I invite you to be part of this movement. I invite you to help change this. I invite you to be part of, again, the things we talked about, a county that we can be proud of. Not only for us, but for the people that are moving here, for our children that are growing up. We want them to stay here. We want seniors to stay here. You do that by building strong community. It's got to be one Charles County. It has got to be one Charles County. It can't be anything less. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Delegate Murphy, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, thank you for participating in our candidates debate tonight. Let's give one final round of applause. Thank you all for attending. We'll have a chance to mingle and talk with the candidates tonight. I do want to make one announcement. Next week, Thursday, May 29th, we're going to be having